Hey guys, our guest today is a nationally recognized motivational keynote speaker exuding the kind of onstage charisma that cannot be taught. She delivers compelling stories that speak volumes and leave a lasting impression. The impact and influence of her presentations motivated her to create a model for consulting and coaching story development for building businesses. Rev up your storytelling IQ as we're about to dive into the power of story. She believes facts alone may be easily forgotten. Provide a story and they'll never forget. Welcome to the show, speaker, survivor, storyteller, and the founder of Six Step Screening, Eva Grayzel.
Thank you, Mike. What a nice intro.
Well, I am so excited to have you on, and I want to thank you in front of our audience here for delivering a copy to me digitally. MC Plays Hide and Seek, which is a really cool book, obviously helping children understand cancer. You are an oral cancer survivor, so I just want to say, huge applause for that. And your story doesn't stop there. Obviously, that's an incredible story by itself. But what I love about you is you took your internal story, and it was also with your husband and your children. When you were diagnosed, you had a 5 and 7-year-old, two beautiful kids. And, you mentioned it. You're very, how do I want to say this? You were very open about the fact that maybe you overlooked some things. And the reason I'm telling this in the beginning of our conversation is you took that situation and now you're getting it out to the world. And that's
right.
who I love.
I sort of, instead of seeing my life linearly, I try to look at my life as a spiral. And yeah, when I got my diagnosis of stage 4, I hit rock bottom. And I climbed up, and then going through radiation, I hit rock bottom again. And I kept climbing up. And each time I climbed up, I kept feeling like I was getting more perspective on my life. So it's not a linear experience, but it really evolves.
Mm-hmm.
And the learning evolves. Even today, I'm still learning deeply about the experience and how what I went through can help others.
Yeah. But again, it's coming from a vulnerable place where you experience it yourself. And you're saying, if I can learn from this and my family can learn from this, how can I educate and teach? And I had the opportunity of reading MC Plays Hide and Seek, and I'm going to read that with my 5-year-old daughter because, I'm grateful to say, as far as I know, I check out, and right now I don't have anything to worry about myself personally. But it's important to have these conversations in the way that you present the book, and I recommend anybody gets it. They can get that right off of your website, correct?
Right. Or Amazon or any big bookseller.
Yeah, guys. So I'm going to put the information below here, but you can go right to Eva's website. It's Eva Grayzel, and it's spelled GRAYZEL.com. So altogether, it's EVAGRAYZ.
Grayzel.
If you're watching this on YouTube, you're seeing she's pointing at her hair that she seems very proud of, but it makes it easy to remember the name, Grayzel. She's also on Instagram, and it's easy to find there as well, at Eva Grayzel, and on Facebook, Eva Grayzel. And thank you for being on the show today. Shout out to our mutual friends, both Lori Orlinsky and Allison Fody-Bork, both wonderful people as well. That's the thing. You hang out with awesome people, and you just keep meeting more awesome people. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, that's what happens, right? You begin to surround yourself with people who you feel you can learn from. Mm-hmm. And, you talked about stories. That's what stories are. Stories are really the impact. What makes them memorable is that they share something personal, typically. Mm-hmm. And when you share something personal, and there's something to learn from that or relate to that, you become really memorable. And when you become memorable, years go down the line, years later, people will say to me, I remember you. I remember this story you told. They don't remember my name. They don't remember where they saw me, but they remember the story.
Yeah. They might not even remember the story, what happens. They remember how it made them feel.
Yes, exactly.
And my favorite movies, I couldn't tell you, every single thing that happened, or I might not even fully understand the story, but I remember how it makes me feel. I can even tell you about Star Wars. I remember watching that as a kid, And I just knew the way it made me feel, but I couldn't tell you who was in what army and what thing and how they related to each other when I was a kid, but you knew the experience, and storytelling is an experience. I want to start right there too. In the intro, we talked about you being a cancer survivor, an amazing person. I'm going to add to that as well. This show is all about being inspired through stories, like we just said. You're a storytelling pro. Can you share your backstory with us with referring to the cancer? We'll get a little bit into your actual backstory about your acting career and things like that. But when it comes to cancer, the moment when you found out you were diagnosed, I know you have a cool keynote speech where you're talking about like being wheeled in and you see like the great triangular sign. Can you share that with us?
Sure. Well, I said goodbye to my husband and my mother. I didn't know if I'd make it out of surgery. This was for stage 4 tongue cancer. Mm-hmm. And I sat in this waiting room for 3 hours. My appointment was at 9 a.m. It was at noon. I called over a nurse, and this is at a big hospital in New York City. Mm-hmm. And I said to her, can we reschedule for tomorrow? This is supposed to be a 12-hour surgery. And at this point, they'll be working on my face at midnight.
Right.
And she said, oh, honey, don't you worry about it. They do this all the time now. Do you want a magazine?
Oh, my gosh.
And that's when I felt this frustration deep inside begin to erupt. Why didn't my dentists know what was staring at them on the lateral border of my tongue? Why didn't my oral surgeons question the first biopsy? Mm-hmm. I had nowhere to direct my frustration but at this nurse. I said, do you know I may never speak again articulately? I may never swallow normally. I may never recognize my own face. And you're asking me if I want a magazine? Right. She backed up, apologized, walked away. I had nowhere to direct my frustration but upward.
Yeah.
How could you do this to me?
Sure. Yeah. And I think a lot of people do that, and it's just a natural thing. It's not calculated. It's when something bad happens, you think of who made this happen, or why is this happening to me? Seems to be a common thing.
That's right. And I recognize that when you focus on gratitude and on your blessings, that it becomes bearable.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, life is really such a balance, right? So there is all this bad stuff that goes on, but when you recognize all the good stuff that balances it out, it becomes bearable.
Let's educate our audience too. Who found what was it on your tongue, first of all, that was determined?
Sore.
It was just a tongue sore. And then when was it determined it was cancerous, and how did that happen?
So the first time I had the sore, I went to an oral surgeon. They biopsied it. They said it was nothing. I never even asked, what are you looking for in the biopsy? It just never even occurred to me that you could get cancer on the tongue. It was beyond my scope of understanding.
Yeah.
And then 2 years go by and this area was changing, but I didn't really feel it. Because early stage oral cancer, you don't feel. But the texture, the color, it was changing. Then the sore came back, at which point I was probably already a stage 2. Mm-hmm. The sore came back and they treated me for trauma. They said, I'm young, I never smoked, I rarely drink, it's trauma. I'm biting it. I'm talking too much. My teeth are sharp. They came up with every excuse, but they never rebiopsied. They never questioned the biopsy. So one of my messages to your audience is biopsies are not 100% definitive. They can take the wrong tissue. They can mishandle the tissue and they can misread it. 3 reasons why, if something continues to bother you, to have it rebiopsied or reevaluated in some way.
Well, we're seeing that now as we're recording this. We're still in the state of a pandemic. We're in 2021, early on in the year. I had 3 COVID tests for myself. As I mentioned to you off camera, my family got rocked by COVID late in the end of the 2020 year. And all 3 of my tests said I was negative, although I did have symptoms and I had the same exact symptoms as other family members. I lost the sense of smell during Thanksgiving. I had to quarantine and have Thanksgiving dinner by myself. Not trying to play pity party here, but my point is I very much think I had it, since other family members that came back positive had the same exact symptoms with the same loss of smell and everything else at the same time I did. But I had 3, and I took them about a couple weeks apart, 3 negative tests. So testing is testing. But it's always important to get a second opinion. And so I just referred to COVID there, but with cancer, obviously COVID's life-threatening for many as well. But I'm just saying how important it is to get that second or third opinion. Podcasting is a great way to engage with your audience and stay consistently relevant. The only problem is you don't have the time or desire to produce your own show. You simply want it done for you. And that's where Social Chameleon comes in. All you need to do is press record and upload the files. We'll handle the rest. From planning, production, post-production, distribution, and digital marketing, we have you covered. We realize that times are tough and funds are tight. And Social Chameleon believes in building supportive business relationships. By clicking on the link in this promo, we'll provide you 7 free podcasting tips to get started, as well as a free 30-minute online consultation. This is the perfect opportunity for entrepreneurs, keynote speakers, industry experts, influencers, and anybody who has a personal brand. With Social Chameleon, we help you build a brand that is out of this world. We're ready and waiting, so what are you waiting for? Click on the link to get started today. Obviously you're here to talk about it. You didn't lose your ability to articulate. You've been on many stages. You've written many books. You're an amazing person pushing out that energy to help others. Share your story a little bit, because I think it's cool for people to know Eva, who she is and was even before this situation that you turned into a positive thing. You had a career as an actress in New York City. That's always exciting. And then what's cool is you had an impressive after-school reading program. Tell the story about the principal coming in after the bell. I want you to share that. I thought it was cool. And then finally, and most recently, you're now motivational speaker. How did you go from one to the next?
So I was pursuing a career as an actress in New York. I just thought after college, if there's any time I'm going to give this a shot, it's now. So I moved back home and I pursued this career as an actress, but I needed to work. I needed some income. And I got a job at an after-school program doing biblical stories. I wasn't really a religious person at that time in my life, but biblical stories, it was like a no-brainer. It was so easy. So I was in my classroom one day and I'm trying so hard to challenge the imaginations of these children who didn't want to be there. Mm-hmm. And I came up with this idea to actually have the children role play the parts in these biblical stories. And it was really engaging. I mean, instead of me reading it with accents or going around the room and having kids read it, which was really boring, we had the kids role play the parts. And just to give you an example of that,
I'd say experience of storytelling again, right?
Right. I basically say, and Mr. Green asked Mrs. Cheap Peep for his money. And the kid would go, "Yo, lady, give me my money." Or the kid might say it any way they want. And so they brought their own personality into the roles. And even though they were very biblical old stories, I was able to make them modern and present and real for these kids. And one day the principal came into my room furious. She said, "Didn't you hear the bell ring? You've caused such a traffic jam outside. Dismiss the kids." And I said, "I'm so sorry. I didn't even hear the bell ring." And I said to the kids, "Guys, did you hear the bell ring?" And they all said, "Yeah, but wait, what happens in the story?"
And the principal just like dumbfounded that kids wanted to keep reading past the bell, right?
Right.
Unbelievable.
And then she was the one who said to me, "You can make a business out of the way you tell stories." I couldn't believe it, that it was even such a thing. But I developed a flyer and she recommended me to colleagues and I began to book programs in religious schools. And then I began to branch out. There was no reason why any of my stories had to be religious. They were mostly value oriented. Sure. So I moved into the secular arena in education. That's where I really started my career.
Yeah. I love what you said. I never heard it maybe deemed or pinpointed to value. What was it? Value added?
Value oriented, yeah.
Value
All my
oriented.
stories are about emphasizing life values.
Yeah, value
Why
oriented.
bother telling stories that don't have a meaningful message?
Right. And I love, there's so many great children's books that tell great stories, but also there's some that are just, again, I have my 5-year-old daughter, I'll read a book and I'm like, that didn't really provide much value. It might've been quirky or whatever, the cool characters, but didn't really hit home. And not every book maybe needs to have this real heavy, oh my gosh, you read it and it's like, you feel like, holy smokes, right? Like I
agree.
But somewhere in between where there's lessons, and some books really do tell great lessons. I mentioned at the top of the show, Lori, who has a couple great books out as well. And Allison, she has cool books with the Alley Cat series. You have MC Plays Hide and Seek. It's actually a reader's favorite. It's a 5-star book, guys. So check that out.
And it's a Mom Choice Gold Award winner, the highest tier.
I didn't even see that yet. That is amazing. And here's the deal, guys. It empowers children with knowledge and how to make a difference. If you can share some of the lessons, some of the key lessons from MC. I know a couple things I took away from it we'll discuss. But can you share? And I know the C stands for cancer. What's the M in that?
So the first edition of the book was Mr. C Plays Hide and Seek. And I thought, I don't need to, I want this book to be gender neutral. So I changed it to MC and sort of left the M in the air, being master, miss, Mr., Mrs., like it really doesn't matter. But I understand.
So it was meant to be left off in the story. I thought I missed something. Okay.
And actually, MC is, a master of ceremonies, so I thought it had that connotation as well.
I think it's beautiful.
Aren't we all the master of ceremonies of our own stories, right?
Certainly are, yeah. And here's the thing. The book promotes dialogue and minimizing fear for children. Can you give us a few takeaways?
Well, I felt the most important thing to share, and I think most children tell me this after they read the book, is that they learn that cancer isn't catchy. It's not like a virus or a germ. You can't share cancer by kissing, hugging, sharing food, being nearby. And that was a powerful lesson for a lot of children. And the other powerful lesson in this book is about feelings, that children matter, that their feelings matter, that even though they don't have cancer, they experience feelings because they care, because they have a heart. And in the book, I emphasize that there are ways to cope with your feelings. You can talk to an adult that you trust. You can draw pictures in a book. You can write in a diary. You can call somebody. There are ways to cope with your feelings. And then the end of the book is a whole section on empowerment and all the things children can do to make a difference.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the big part there is kids not, it's a tough thing to teach, is that something that need to be concerned with is not visual. Because I think kids look for something that's causing a problem, even adults, right? It's not visual. It's something that doesn't show up. You didn't notice it until maybe it was in stage 2 already, because stage 1 a lot of times doesn't irritate so the story, and again, guys, I'm going to show some pictures if I have the ability to do that. And it's this little cool MC character that is like a DNA strand, kind of. Is that right? Or is he just made up a different matter? And he represents cancer, basically kind of a hidden thing that can be anywhere in any part of your body. And then what I thought was cool is the educational point of, there's different kind of doctors. It starts with the dentist and it goes through like the gastro and other different kind of doctors that can check for this. And I thought, you know what, that's really interesting to teach kids about different doctors, and also that they're all looking for this thing like a detective and trying to find where it is.
I love that page too.
Makes it a little bit more, as heavy as the subject matter is, it has a little bit more of a fun element of, okay, we understand, like we're learning, we're experiencing, we're storytelling. So I thought that's great. I think this is a great book for anybody.
And the puzzle piece, I like that page too. That cancer's puzzle.
Yeah,
there's no one piece that's going to put the puzzle together.
Exactly. But the thing is, going back to the original point, it's it's hidden, it's unknown. And that's what makes cancer very scary, is what we don't know. When we get information with what we do know, we feel we can start solving. How did you handle it going through oral cancer with the unknowns? Can you tell some of the things? Maybe you reflect on it and you can speak better today than in the moment.
Right. I mean, there's just so much fear wrapped up in the unknown. Mm-hmm. And what I learned from it is that worrying is so unproductive when you just don't know. Mm-hmm. So I really focused on gratitude, on recognizing the blessings in my life and all the things that I could do, mm-hmm. and not focusing on the things that I could no longer do. And I also recognized, a lot of people ask me about God and where is God? And I just felt like I found God. It's in people. Mm. It's directly in all the people who come to help, who show support, who make meals, who take your children out for a play date. It's these people who were angels, mm-hmm. to help me get through this.
Mm-hmm. I see it in you. I see it in you, Eva. I mean,
thanks,
you have a glow. Not only do you have the coolest background behind you, but you as a person are glowing. And I just feel this thing. We met today for the first time, had a couple emails back and forth, but, and I prepped for this, watching a couple of your keynotes, but you have this energy that you just don't, it's not manufactured. I can tell when someone's genuine and delivers this quality that you have. And I would say it very much is like you're describing how God is in people. Well, I see that.
Really nice thing to say.
And I'm saying it because I mean it. And that's how this goes. We talk about understanding our children's feelings and how in a devastating situation like cancer, A, the child could be the one going through it, or B, their parent can be going through it. And in either
way,
or
a neighbor or a teacher, right, or a friend's parent.
So true.
And this is about understanding it and being supportive. I really believe children who read this book will become leaders, will be able to step up to the plate and say, we could do this.
Mm-hmm. How do we better communicate with their children, though, in that moment? What would you suggest if you can talk directly right now to a parent that's going through something and they're worried that their kids are obviously, they know what's going on. Maybe they're of age to feel
I really believe that children are smarter than we give them credit for. They hear the whispers, they hear the stifled crying, they see all the excess of visitors, they know something is going on. Mm-hmm. And for them, the unknown, as we said before, is just frightening, and children's imaginations make it worse than it really is. Mm-hmm. So it's best to really ask a child, how are you feeling about this? Are you scared? Ask questions. That is the best thing to do, because then you really are addressing what they need to know at their point in life. Mm-hmm. But if you don't ask the questions, Mike, you can't expect them to just come up to you and approach you with, Mom, are you going to die? Mm-hmm. What's going to happen to me? So I say to parents that when you see your child developing for the first time, or you see them interested in a love, a Cupid, tell them about the first time you had those feelings. Open up, share with them. And when you let them know that you had vulnerabilities, you were scared, you were hurt, share those times so that your children can come to you and share with you what they've been experiencing. Instead of going to a friend, they come to you.
I think it makes you more real. And what I mean by that is a parent a lot of times is on a separate level from children. And it is. You're the parent, they're the kid. Let's say that kid is 16, 17, 18, like you said, they're dating, they're going on some first-time experiences. To feel like mom and dad are just archaic and don't really understand love, or whatever. I think there can be that feeling there where some parents are more open with, maybe they're even a younger parent or something where the conversation seems a little bit more natural. But like you said, to talk and be like, yeah, I remember, the first time I saw this boy at the park or whatever. And all of a sudden your kids, I feel like in that moment, start to see you as like almost more of a role model
Yes.
and a mentor than
And a
just a
mentor.
parent who's going to
Yes.
put them in
Somebody that they can go
timeout.
to.
Yeah. You're not just a parent parenting to put kids in timeout and organize and create
Yes.
rules. You should be best friends. I feel parents should be best friends with their kids.
I really want to clarify when I said ask questions, you have to be a little careful with asking questions because some questions can come across as being a little judgmental. Like if I say, who did you play with today?
Mm-hmm.
Or if I say, what did you eat for lunch today? It could feel a little judgmental.
Not only the question, but the way you just said it implied that you were asking it in a negative way. But if you said,
Right.
"Who'd you play with
So
today?" It's just a
exactly.
really
So
voice inflection.
if you open up the bridges of communication by sharing a personal story,
Mm-hmm.
then you can ask, have you ever felt like I did?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a mutual discussion about feelings. It's not so much what happened or who made fun of you.
Mm-hmm.
It's about how you felt and what we can do about strengthening those feelings or helping you through that. Right, Mike? I mean, you have a 5-year-old.
Oh my gosh. So do you feel like there's a level of making sure it's appropriate at a particular time, or do you think,
It's tricky, Mike. Some kids are more advanced than others.
Mhm,
Some children want to know more than others.
mhm.
So it's really hard to find that balance. I think the only person that knows a child well enough for that is their parent.
It should be, yeah. I recently lost my father. He passed away in
I'm
December. I
so
mentioned that
sorry.
to you. And I was contemplating whether or not my daughter Isabel would be at the wake to see the open casket. And
Mm.
part of me said, I don't want that morbid feeling to be something that bothers her or gives her nightmares. But at the same time, she was so close with her grandpa and they were goofy together and silly. And he always got her giggling. And I just felt like, and actually, her mother, my ex-wife, lost a grandparent at the same age, and she said she didn't get that moment. So she was telling me she felt she never received closure from that
Wow.
moment. So I said, I'm thinking about Isabel when she's 21, reflecting on her grandpa. Would she feel like she lost out on a moment that I, as a parent, made a decision for her? So we brought her in, and she kneeled next to me, and we prayed together right next in front of my dad. And it was just one of the most heartfelt,
Beautiful.
devastating, and there was a moment of peace with it at the same time. Still don't have words to explain it, but
Well, Mike,
he handled it with so much grace, like she was like an adult, a mini adult in the moment.
you gave her a life lesson that day by choosing to share it with her. You taught her that life, that people are immortal. And
Mhm,
children need to understand that people don't last forever. it
mhm,
and animals don't last forever, and trees and flowers don't last forever. I mean, it's just such an important message,
mhm,
and you shared it in a profound and caring, loving way.
mhm,
As long as you opened up. And still, Mike, I mean, this is only in December that you lost your dad.
mhm,
Don't stop asking her, have you thought about that? Do you have any questions? How
mhm.
did you feel? How did you feel when we were
Yeah.
kneeling together? And share with her how you felt.
Mhm,
Tell her, I felt so I felt I felt like I could share this with you, and it made it so much easier for me.
mhm,
And I think when you go through hard times, how lucky we are to have family to
mhm.
share it with, so that the burden isn't on our own shoulders. I mean, that's what family is all about.
Yeah.
That's what you're
Yeah.
teaching her.
Wow.
That's
I
what
do feel like
illness is
we've
about.
opened up. I've had some conversations with her about it, and she's mentioned about grandpa going to heaven, and she said that to my mom, and it really got my mom choked up. And because she brought it up to my mom, rather like you said, than asking kind of a thing. And I think, yeah, you need to understand when it feels right to maybe ask a question? And why are you asking it? Is it just to get an answer, or is it actually to get on your child's level to allow them to open up? And I think that's when it's most important. Tell us anything more you like about your books. We also have you have the Talk for Hope books that came out after as kind of a resource you felt didn't exist. Maybe I don't want to put words in your mouth.
I did. Well, after writing MC Plays Hide and Seek, I also wrote the book Mr. C, the Globetrotter. And it's about, I felt like MC Plays Hide and Seek is about all the doctors that look for cancer and what cancer is. Mm-hmm. And then this empowerment section and feelings. But I felt that it was missing something. And so Mr. C, the Globetrotter is about children all over the world who are experiencing the exact same thing, somebody they care about who has cancer. Mm-hmm. And each child talks about what they do to cope. Mm-hmm. You know, one of the children in the book has a sibling with cancer. And they say, you know, my sibling gets all the attention and I just feel like I'm invisible. But I have friends. And the child says that they call their friends, and they have friends who will cheer them up and make them feel better and make them feel important and loved. Mm-hmm. So there are ways that children cope, and they have to recognize that there are times when attention has to go in a different direction, but it doesn't mean that they're any less valuable or important as a member of the family. See, mm-hmm. That's really important, Mike. You made your daughter feel like an important member of the family. And if you had excluded her, she would have felt like she's really not that important. Mm-hmm. It's really, what you did was just profound experience for her.
Mm-hmm. And so are those other books you're talking about, the Talk for Hope books that explain?
So the other book in the Talk for Hope series is a story legacy. And it's to help people, mostly adults, tell their stories for future generations. It really it generates ideas for stories. So it asks you questions about time you were brave, a time when you recognized the value of family. You know, it asks you about your love story, about your values. What are your values on education, on religion, on charity? Mm-hmm. You know, these are things that maybe we don't talk about with our parents, and we don't really know. Mm-hmm. Do you know, Mike, where your parents donate money? You know, right?
It's crazy. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you do because we are open about a lot, but at the same time, no. I mean, even... Again, not to keep bringing it back here, but with my dad passing away, there were things that my mom and dad didn't discuss that she feels really broken up about, because she was coming to me like, I don't know what Dad would want to do. And it's a lesson I'm learning, like when I'm in that position and married, and, you know, whether it's year one in marriage or they had 41 years together, whether it's year one or 41, you need to have really important conversations.
It sounds to me like, Mike, you need to have that conversation with your mom. Find out what her wishes are.
Exactly, yeah.
Make sure you collect her stories, so you don't feel the way she does about losing her spouse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was planning on doing an interview like this with my parents as well, and I did not have the opportunity to do it with my dad. I did have a lot of conversations with him throughout the years where he would tell some stories from his childhood as well. Let's talk a little bit about you. We got Eva on the show. She's delivering amazing value today, right? What was it again?
Value-oriented messages.
I don't know why that word doesn't want to hit me. Value-oriented messages. We're doing it. She's done it through her books, through her personal story. I want to know a little bit more about you, though. We talked about the acting in your youth. What are some of your favorite things to do with your family now?
Well, with my family, my kids are grown. Mm-hmm. So I love to dance. I feel like that is the greatest expression of joy. Mm-hmm. And I dance cooking in the kitchen. I dance whenever I can. Whenever I hear music, all of a sudden, like, it vibrates in my blood vessels and I start to move. I love Broadway.
It brings happiness. Dancing, whether you're as bad as I am, which is
It doesn't matter.
Because it's like if I'm at the wedding and, the song comes on and it's just one of those songs that is from like the 90s or something that I can get up and dance to, like old hip hop. I'm thinking of like, what is it? Cypress Hill Jump Around. When that comes on, I always get loose, right? But I know I'm bad, but everyone around me is enjoying it. I'm having fun. They're having fun, probably laughing, but we're all having fun. And whether you're goofily dancing while you're cooking in the kitchen, it's amazing. You just feel fun. You're loose.
And I would like you to try to get away from the concept of bad and good.
Yeah.
It's all subjective. There is no bad, Mike.
Yeah, that's a great
In
point.
fact, it's all good. Mike, you are a good dancer. What are you, comparing yourself to others? Never should we do that, right? Because we're all innately different. And actually, if you dance and express joy, it's a beautiful thing to witness.
Yeah. There is no
bad.
So here's why I love doing this show, because there's mic drop moments like that where my guests come on and they hit me with something. And then also I go back and listen to these myself. And sometimes I do it weeks or months later and I forget about some of the nuances of the conversation. And then I'll say something that's heavy on my heart in the moment. This is one of them, not comparing yourself to someone else for dancing and just going to have fun. And there's no value on that. It's the moment, how it makes you feel. And I may need this in 4 months when I'm tuning in just to listen back. So, but it's awesome it's almost like the teacher is the student too, like they learn the most because they have 20 kids they're reading a book to and they're learning everything about all of them. The teacher learns the most out of anybody, right?
Well, that is the sign of a great teacher when they're learning from their own students.
They're a sponge. Yeah, sponge for sure. Who would you say is your biggest influence? And then talk about some books and podcasts you like to listen to.
Well, let's see. My greatest influence. Wow. I mean, my parents were just, it's kind of uncanny how you say sometimes, I don't want to be like my dad that way. And yet you find yourself being exactly like your dad that way.
Sure.
It's very hard to break patterns and routines that we grew up with. Mm-hmm. So we're all going to spend our lifetimes trying to break routines and patterns that we don't want to emulate so that we don't do it for our children. So that part is interesting to me. I just really want to share with your audience that after I became a professional storyteller, I've got to tell this story about one day when I was in New York for a follow-up treatment with my surgeon, follow-up appointment. And I saw a bus go by with a woman who looked like me on the side of the bus. Her tongue was sticking out. There was a sore in her tongue exactly where mine was. And I thought, there's this awareness campaign about oral cancer. I want to be a part of it. And I called up the American Dental Association, whose logo was on this bus. And they eventually called me back and I did a video for them, an educational video for their dentists. And that's when I recognized that I really needed to tell my story. Mm-hmm. And now I'm a motivational speaker. I basically speak about the patient perspective. I tell my story. And one day when I was on this stage and there was a sales manager in the audience and he came up to me and he said, if my sales team could tell a story the way you're telling your story, we'd be golden. And I said, well, let's get on it. So we did a meeting with about 20 salespeople. Mm-hmm. And it was at that meeting, I got to share this particular story about a young woman who drove up in a car she bought for $200 from Florida to New York because her dream was to work in New York. Hmm. So she invested $200, which was all she had. She drove up to New York and lived in her car for 2.5 weeks until she landed the job with this particular company. Wow. And I said to her, do you ever share that story with these cold calls in these offices that you have to go visit? She said, are you kidding me? No way. And I said, that's your story. Just end the story by telling them you'll go the distance for them too.
Wow.
Guess amazing. What? 2 weeks later, I got a phone call from her manager. He said she sold the biggest ticket item they have. Yeah. And why? Because of her story.
Yeah, it's incredible. And that when you're purchasing something from someone, you're not buying only the product, you're buying the story of the person who's selling it to you. And that word is a really big word when we're using it for in a sales situation, but it really is. It's like, there's a connection. You can use the word story and connection. Somebody's connection to you, how they also take care of you as a great salesperson. There's many things that go into it. That's a whole nother podcast episode. But really, if you find some common ground and connection to this person and they have this incredible story, like this person cared enough about coming here to land this gig, they want to be in the shoes they're in right now, pitching me whatever product or service it is, you have a different appreciation for them. Now, if they also do a great job, it's a slam dunk. But if it's
I'll take that a step further.
Please do.
Right? I'm going to say that not only does it build this rapport and create this connection between two people, but it inspires trust.
Yeah.
Because by sharing a personal story, what you're saying is, I trust you, Mike, with my story. And that allows you to say, it's sort of saying, and you can trust me with your story. And it's that trust that begins to develop. I remember once speaking at a conference for someone it was for a public service company. And one of the things this one woman did who I interviewed was she went to Home Depot and asked for lumber and products to help build homes for Habitats for Humanity. So I said to her, well, what do you say? When you go into Home Depot, what do you say to that manager? She says, well, I tell about my company and I give my ask. I said, well, why do you do this? Why do you do this job of all the other jobs that you could do? Because look at you, you're smart, you're very articulate, I can tell you have attention to detail. Why this job? And then this fire. She said to me, oh, you're asking me about this job? Well, I'll tell you. She said to me, I lost everything. And with recycled materials, I was able to build my home. Now, you would call it a shack, but it's my home, and I am really proud of it. And I said, wow. I said, do you share that story with the manager at Home Depot? She said, no. And I said, just share that story, because then they are going to believe that whatever products they give you, they can trust that you're going to put it to good use. Yeah. If anybody puts it to good use, it's you.
Wow. Again, we're running out of microphones to drop. I just absolutely love what you're saying here. Talk again also. So the influence, you mentioned your parents, your father. What about books? Is there a book that maybe relative to our conversation today that you read that just stands out as something you'd like to pass along to our listeners?
Mike, there are so many books feed me in different ways. I can't answer that question.
What about talking to an entrepreneurial audience, maybe someone who's looking to achieve greatness and they just need to go to
but what I really want to say is paying attention to children. That's really, because our children are the future of this country.
It's amazing.
And if I were to leave your audience with one message, one great thing that I want to leave them with, I would leave them with the word praise. Praise. It's so easy to criticize all the people we love and need most, our coworkers, our spouses, our kids. It's so easy to say, empty that dishwasher. Why didn't you say thank you for that? Can't you do this without complaining? We're constantly getting down on people. And it's so much harder. Mike, it is a skill to balance all these criticisms with praise. So I'd like to leave you with this idea of the sandwich. Start with praise. Say what you need to say without making the other person feel too defensive. And then follow it up with more praise.
Wow.
I think that the more we praise our children today, the happier this world will be. They'll know. It'll help children identify who they are, what they're good at. Even adults, sometimes adults don't know how other people see them. Mm-hmm. But when there's praise, they have this moment of clarity. Wow, people appreciate this about me.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you a story, Mike. You like stories. So I'm going to tell you this story about this young man who was lost at war. Mm-hmm. And his parents got his dog tag and his wallet. And inside his wallet was this list of adjectives. And the parents looked at this list, thought, wow, how weird it was. It was an old list. And then at the bottom was the name of his 3rd grade teacher. So they contacted this 3rd grade teacher of his, and they said, we found this list in our son's wallet. Can you tell us about it? And she said that year in her class, there was a lot of bullying. And she decided that she was going to ask every child in the class to say one nice thing about everybody in the class. And then she collated all those nice things and gave each child a list of all the nice things everybody in the class sees in them. And this kid held it in his wallet.
Wow.
All those years to remind him that he's good, that he's kind, that he's worthy. Mm-hmm. And isn't that the most important thing? Yeah. No matter what challenges you face, no matter, who you are, where you came from, the things that you could have done differently, you're worthy.
I think, again, in the world we live in right now, 2021, and even the last decade, I feel like children get into this world really quickly. I'm holding up a phone, anyone who's listening right now. You get into social media, which is a great thing for many uses. But what it does is there's a lot of, we call them vanity metrics in social media marketing, but it's like, this false praise, right? I got 500 likes on my Instagram picture on my vacation. And it might be a 12 to 22-year-old girl going on vacation, and she's valuing her quality based on the likes on a post and not actually like the real praise she's getting from friends and family for the person she is. I'm saying I'm using that example. It could be a guy, it could be anybody.
A great example.
All of a sudden, if like a parent is too silent with providing praise, it's easy for kids to go and find it in the world in a way of getting a like or whatever it might be on social media. More followers, it's manufactured, opposed to you or this teacher allowing the kids to say, what do we like about each other here? And hearing some qualities that maybe we wouldn't even think about ourselves.
One of the things that I did with my children that I think had a very lasting effect was blessing them at night. Mm-hmm. Even though I questioned my own faith after going through what I went through, I didn't want to rob my children of faith. So every night, and Mike, I recommend you do this with your child, but put your hands on their head and bless them. Say, thank you for blessing me with my daughter who is so conscientious of her friends' feelings, who calls grandma without being asked, who, praise her, and then follow it with something you may want her to work on. Help her find the strength to share more willingly, to open up about her feelings, to, so you're not telling her what to do. You're not saying, do this, share. You're saying, help her find the strength to find a way to do this. And
it's more empowering because people want to connect the dots. They don't want to be dragged through the dots.
Right.
They want leadership, not a dictator. Right?
It's funny. So one day after I said to my son, I said, help Jeremy find the strength to say these 6 words when he enters the kitchen. Mom, what can I do to help? 7 words. Yeah. So he'd be like, huh? So then when he walked into the kitchen, he'd go, Mom, what can I do to help?
Right.
And I'd be like, oh, Jeremy, that was so nice of you to ask. Could you empty the dishwasher or set the table? But it became a habit. And then we'd laugh about it. And then he'd do what I needed him to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the thing, like everyone's going to be unique and have that fun relationship where what works and doesn't work. And Isabel has this thing where she's going to do the opposite. She plays that opposite game. And you could try to do the reverse psychology, but she knows you're doing it. So it's just a fun, just an amazing gift to be able to be a parent to a beautiful child, right?
Without a doubt. And Mike, if any of your listeners are looking for some inspirational or motivational presentation,
Mm-hmm. I think we
can
found
reach out. I can I can tailor the program, whether it be about stories or include a lot of motivation. I actually say that I provide education, inspiration, and motivation and entertainment, and you decide how much of each.
Mm-hmm. I love that there's a difference between, and it gets overused, the word motivation. It's Motivation Monday today. And as we record this, it's a Monday. And Mic'd Up comes out on Mondays. And I like that to be like the start of the week and everything. But the word motivation, I think, even used for motivational speaker, people don't necessarily need motivation because that just means they're going to be excited for 10 minutes. They need inspiration, I feel. And the difference in those two words is when you inspire someone, you're planting a seed in them to go and do it. When you motivate someone, you're just like, to me at least, and I'd love your thoughts on this. And I didn't come up with this. I heard this said and it really clicked with me. Like motivating someone, I picture like the gym coach, like you can do 10 more reps, opposed to inspiring them in a way that gets them to want to do the 10 more reps.
That's so interesting. Yeah. That's what I feel the power of story is. When you tell a story and the listener can see themselves in your story because they relate to the value or the work ethic or something in it, or the feeling, the emotion. When they see themselves in your story, it ignites new thoughts. And it's those new thoughts that can motivate you to change. Right. I agree with you that do those 10 more reps, that kind of motivation is not long lasting.
Right. But inspiring someone to want to do them for themselves. It's almost that old saying about teach a man to fish, or
right.
Give a man a fish, or opposed to teach him. I don't know. I always
botch, to fish, right.
I botch those old sayings. I know what they mean, but I don't always get them right. This is not meant to be a curveball. If you've watched my show, you may know it's coming now, because I do like this as a regular question to kind of wrap the show up. But if you can be known for one thing, what would it be and why?
Saving lives.
How about you? I said no more mic drop moments, and then you throw me that one. Yeah, so saving lives, as simple as that. 2 words.
Basically sharing my story and saving lives. When I share my story about oral cancer, I have gotten calls from around the country, people who have said, thank you for sharing that story. My uncle, my friend has something on their tongue. They've been complaining about it. I'm going to tell them to go to the dentist or the ENT or whomever. And then I get a call. I mean, I saved their life.
Amazing. I've never had someone answer that so well in 2 words, so concisely. But also, you're giving these phenomenal what am I trying to say? Insightful answers, but you're not rambling on. You are like, boom, Mike, I give you what you're looking for, and we're going to move on. This interview, I feel like the content we just discussed could have been 3 hours, but we're hitting it in an hour. We talked about gratitude a couple times. I'm not sure if you picked up on it, but I love to start and end my day in gratitude. And I have a mug that says, be great and be grateful. It's my slogan, if you will. I know you love gratitude, because in that moment at the hospital, when the woman says, take a magazine, if you had a little bit more gratitude and also perspective on the situation, you may have handled it differently. What are the 3 things that you're most grateful for today?
Family would definitely come first. Family, friends would come second. And third, I mean, really, it's the people in your life. Does anything else matter more than the people in your life?
We call that could be your
think of
network.
anything.
Yeah. So good. Yeah, because I mean, obviously, you're it's a give and take. You're helping people, and they're helping you, right? It's that back and forth. That's why community is so important.
In fact,
isolate somebody and they lose out on community, and they really go downhill.
I when I was really sick, I was afraid to ask for help because I was afraid that I'd never be able to repay all the favors. And then when I started to accept people's help, I recognized that I'm giving back at the exact same moment. By accepting their help, I was giving them the opportunity to rise up on their ladder of righteousness or, doing another good deed. So it was give and take. And when you look at giving help that way, it's really easy to accept help.
What's great is giving, and I know this is how you meant it, I can tell from your energy, without expecting anything in return. You're coming out and you're saying, let me help you out. Now, you know that person may return a favor, but you're not saying, I'm only helping you if you do that.
Right.
And I think that's a beautiful thing.
In fact, Mike, I don't know if you know this, but the highest good deed in the world is to go to someone's funeral and to honor their memory, because it's a deed that can never be repaid.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you get that opportunity once.
Yeah,
so much
heavy,
here.
right?
This is a go back and get your notebooks out type episode. I've had a lot of these lately. I feel like I'm on a roll into 2021 with these. There's just like a roller coaster of emotions in these episodes. There's sadness, happiness, there's entertainment, there's really serious conversations. We're talking about children, adults. Everybody can learn from what we're talking about here. There's 2 quotes I wrote down when I had the opportunity to read MC Plays Hide and Seek, which again is available on your website, which is Eva Grayzel. It's EvaGrayzel.com. You can get the book there on Amazon. I took these 2 notes. I want you to elaborate a little bit on it, and then we're going to let everybody go their separate ways and enjoy the week. The 2 quotes are, so it's eat healthy foods, exercise, wear a hat and a shirt in the sun, just kind of being smart. And then you follow that up with, you have the power to make a difference. So you can be protective. That's the first quote. The second one is, no medicine is more powerful than love. And I would even say laughter too. Love and laughter are just a great formula for medicine in the worst of times. Can you talk a little bit about those 2 things?
Well, that even in the throes of challenging times in your life, and we sort of said this before, is that life is in balance. And the opposite side is recognizing the courage, the leadership, the friendship, the noticing all these things that come to the surface when you're experiencing these great challenges. And if I were to sum it all up, all those beautiful things to be grateful for, it's love, right? It's really love. It's people expressing in the way they can how they care about another person.
Yeah, which is why you can have it all, monetarily or physically, things and
then that other page,
things. But if you don't have genuine love, you still feel the biggest void that you can possibly.
Right. And I suppose it has to start with love for yourself, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's so important.
And then the other page that you mentioned about children, and that I really want children to feel empowered. They don't have to rely on their parents for everything, or rely on friends to make them feel good. I want children to feel that they have the power within to really direct their lives. And once they take that power, they can really go far. So that's why I was saying, even when they go out on the beach and they're not wearing a hat or sunscreen, they're taking a risk. And even with COVID now, everything that we do, whether we go to the market, or not wear our mask within a distance of somebody else, we take a risk. Mm-hmm. And we're going to be taking our risks our whole life. So it's just about taking power of making a decision, owning up to that decision, and accepting the consequences of that decision. Mm-hmm. And when we do that, we're really empowering ourselves as individuals and becoming the individual we're meant to become.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just giving yourself a little bit more of that power is something to remember. And then even like we're talking about taking preventative measures of putting a hat on, and just like the things that we can control. Something in 2020 and now into 2021 that I've said over and over and over again, when someone says, how you doing, how you feeling, how's business, this, that, and the other thing, I go right to the place of control what's in my control. That's my attitude, my happiness, my gratitude, but also how I treat people around me. And I feel bad. Last night, I'll tell you a little bit of vulnerable story here. I got off the phone with my girlfriend, and I was pressured. I had a project I was working on that I didn't finish until 2 a.m. Right. And so I always call her right before we wrap up the night. And I was in a poor mood, a piss poor mood, to be honest. And she felt my energy, and I texted her right after. And I was like, I don't want that to be, you to think any of that had anything to do with you. It's just where I was. Now, why didn't I dial her number? And before I pressed send, think, Mike, it doesn't matter what your world looks like right now. Don't take that out on Lindsay, right? Like, you should be, just think about the gratitude you have for her, and then be in that moment. And then obviously once the phone rings, you got to handle this problem or this thing. But I even being, and the reason I share this on the show is even when we have the answers, we don't always execute them. And that's the greatest.
I agree. That's why it's a lifelong work, Mike.
That's why the best athletes still make a mistake. It's like they knew it, they practiced it, and we're not perfect. People are not perfect, but I think it's more important, at least the best we can do if we goof up, is to admit it right away and start taking corrective measures, which is why I wanted to handle it. Like, I acknowledged that I wasn't right. It wasn't,
That's good. So. Hey, Mike, I'd like to suggest that when you compliment Isabella, your daughter, mm-hmm. that rather than say, honey, you look beautiful, because all that does is have her think, my dad thinks I'm beautiful. It doesn't help her feel beautiful within. So when you compliment other people, it's great to recognize, instead of their outward beauty, which can change, is to recognize their inward beauty and say, Isabella, the choice of your outfit, the clothing, the way you've put it together really makes your personality shine. Or to really look at her talents and her skills that make her beauty shine. And so I guess I'd like to end this interview by saying, Mike, I don't think I have had a more meaningful interview with anybody else before. That you have really, I'm inspired with your openness and your honesty and your vulnerability. And I think Lindsay is one heck of a lucky woman.
Thank you so much for that. I do this show. We talked about this too before we started recording. This isn't a monetary gain for me. This is connecting and getting these stories out to the audience. I mean that with everything in my heart. And I'm glad that you are seeing that shine through. And that's the happiest thing. That's the best compliment I can receive, is someone coming on the show and feeling that they enjoyed their experience. Because the last thing I'd want is you to feel you just gave an hour away, that you could be doing something else. And I appreciate you.
Well, you complimented me on my conciseness, and actually I think you are very much the same way. That's why you recognized it in me, because you don't want to go on and on. You want to get to the point, move on, and keep sharing important, valuable messages. So I love this. Yeah. Thank you, Mike, for having me on the show today.
This was awesome. Eva Grayzel, again, guys. EvaGrayzel.com. Find her on Facebook. Connect on my next move after we end this. I'm going on Instagram, and I'm going to follow you right away. Thank you so much for being here. This was awesome.
I think we're going to stay in touch, Mike.
I agree. Let's do it.
Okay. Goodbye, everybody.
I love you guys, and thank you so much for tuning in. Check out more show notes and information on each episode at mikeduppodcast.com, MIKEDuppodcast.com. We're powered by Social Chameleon. You guys know what to do. Be great and be grateful.